Hey you guys, we are back with another video, and this time we're going to go over the 5 ways you can spot an ESFP instantly. These are the most common traits that I notice with the ESFP, so if you notice that someone is giving off these kind of behaviors, or they kind of lean towards this spectrum when it comes to conversation, good chances that it's a good chance that you're talking to an ESFP. So let's get right into it. The first way that you can find an ESFP is that they are found in a lot of social gathering places, right? So ESFPs are very social butterflies, right? They love the attention of being around people, of being in social situations, surrounded by people. So this could be at, a party, a club, a disco, a bar, or a nightclub, right? ESFPs, in my opinion, they need a lot of attention and social interaction. They love to be in the spotlight, surrounded by their adoring fans, which could also be, other people, right? So they like to mix and mingle and be able to kind of interact with many types of people, so not necessarily just like one person. This is why they're most likely found in group social settings. This is so important to them, to the point that they almost cannot survive without social interaction. To them, it is an almost absolute necessity, right, to go outside and meet other people. And this is because they have they need a high amount of social connection in order to feel satisfied in their life, right? Without it, they get very bored. They get very, I'd say, irritated. It's like certain people have certain preferences, right? So introverts don't like to mix around with too many people, whereas ESFPs, they lean more towards the extrovert side. And if they don't get this social interaction in their life, or social acceptance within a circle, then they can start to feel, irritated, agitated. They basically need that social interaction in order to stay sane. Another point when it comes to how ESFPs kind of interact with their social circle is that they have extreme loyalty to said circle and whom they perceive to be their fans and supporters. So this basically means that they will side with them in any kind of argument, conflict, or interaction against an opposing group, regardless of whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong. So for example, if an ESFP is a police officer, they will side with their fellow police officers, even if the officer is breaking the law himself, right? So to the ESFP, it's not so much as doing the right thing, it's just, this is my group, I will do whatever it takes to defend my group and stick with them, right? So it's almost like extreme loyalty to a fault, right? So if they see their friend breaking the law, they will side with their friend and kind of lie about it, even though they may be aware that their friend is breaking the law, because to them it's like friendship is more important than some silly rules and regulations. Because of this extreme loyalty, it can often lead to the ESFP, in some cases, being used and betrayed by the one they adore most, because of their naive or blind faith in friendships and connections, the power of friendships and connections to them, because to them that is very important. And so they are very willing to place their trust, or as I said with the previous example with the police officer, they're willing to kind of defend their friends, even if it may not necessarily be the right thing to do in the eyes of society. And this can lead them to being betrayed later on down the road. Someone could push the blame onto them and then they take the fall or something like that. Okay, so then moving on to the second way you can spot an ESFP is that they are very flamboyant. I'd say flamboyant, narcissistic, and almost a very high focus on oneself. So for example, when I say narcissistic, right, they kind of give off this aura of of course I'm beautiful, took you long enough to notice, right? So it's almost, I don't want to say arrogant, but it's cocky, kind of confidence, of course, I'm a big deal, took you this long to notice, right? So they're not very humble when it comes to how they interact with others. This is just their personality. It's not, it's not like they're trying to offend people. It's just that this is their personality, right? They can't be humble. ESFPs love to be, again, in the spotlight and have all the attention. They are natural performers, and so this is why they kind of like put on a very flamboyant act when it comes to interacting with anyone. You may also know the story of narcissists, which is where the term narcissistic comes from, which is basically narcissist was like looking into a pond one day, and he was like, oh, my reflection is so beautiful, to the point that, you know, he drowned in it because he thought that he was he like tried to like save himself in the pond because he thought the reflection of him was drowning, and so he tried to save him, but then, you know, he died that way because, you know, of this high focus on oneself that they can't really see through, you know, smoke and mirrors, that like maybe not everyone else views you the way that you view yourself. Maybe it's just that, you know, your own perspective. But then for an ESFP, they don't really ask themselves or reflect on that. They just say like, you know, I think I'm beautiful, so therefore I am, and if anyone disagrees with my opinion, you know, they can like fuck off. That's basically an ESFP. When you want to sum up their like flamboyant or narcissistic nature. This means they have a high amount of focus on their external appearance. So like how they look. They want to look very, you know, presentable. They want to look very good. In most cases, most ESFPs, as a result of this, they have a very good sense of like style or fashion. They will also judge others based on their looks because of this. Because again, they have a high amount of focus on the external appearance, which is, to some people, they might say like, oh, you know, that's shallow because you're just judging someone based on their externals, right? You don't know what's inside them. But then to an ESFP, they view the external appearance, I would say, as like a reflection of the internal. Female ESFPs are less likely to do this, in my opinion. But then male ESFPs, I would say they have a higher priority on fashion, and will even go so far as to like use it as a trait when it comes to like judging someone on whether or not they are interesting, right? Because to an ESFP, they don't really care if you're competent. They just care whether or not you are interesting and whether or not you are like amusing to them, right? Because when they interact with people, they want a certain kind of like stimulation, right? Social stimulation, excitement, someone that's like interesting, someone that's amusing. They don't really want to interact with people that are boring, because it's like, you know, that brings down the vibe, man. I'm just trying to like chill and have fun in my life, which is an ESFP. So if they see someone that's kind of like, you know, looks kind of like not that well dressed or whatever, they will most likely not want to associate with them, even though that person's internal world may be very rich. Because to them, they don't really care about the internal world. They care more about what they can get in the moment, which is, you know, that excitement, interaction, you know, that like adrenaline rush, I guess you could say. They also have a very high ego about this when it comes to their appearance and like external appearances. So if others try to insult them based on them, you know, like looking ugly or having like a bad sense of fashion, most likely it's going to lead to the ESFP getting physically violent, to the point of maybe even like throwing a punch at the guy. ESFPs are very emotionally driven, and they're quite sensitive about this, I would say, because of how they view this to be important, right? So for example, someone calling the ESFP, saying that the ESFP has a bad sense of fashion, right? Because the ESFP believes that they have such a high sense of fashion, they believe that, you know, I look good, I'm boss, right? If someone like contradicts what they perceive to be true, they are going to get very defensive about it, because they're very passionate about their sense of style, sense of fashion in how they look, right? Because they take time to, you know, make themselves look good. They invest a lot of their efforts into like this area of their life, which is external appearance. And so for someone to insult them based on that, they're going to get very, you know, agitated, as basically anyone would when it comes to something that they're passionate about. But for ESFPs, because this is something that, you know, it's like one of the highest priorities in their life, so therefore if someone is to like go against them, they're going to get very agitated about this. So you can say ESFPs are very passionate in fighting for what they believe in. The third way that you can spot an ESFP is that they like to take shortcuts. And what I mean by this is that let's say that you wanted to tell the ESFP to wash the dishes, right? And so offer them, let's say, two options, right? You could either use the dishwasher, which would wash the dishes, but it may not clean each and every single speck of dirt off the plate, so there might be some food stuck on the table, food stuck onto the plate. Or you tell them to like wash each of the dishes individually by hand. However, this will result in the plates being completely clean. The ESFP would prefer to just throw all the dishes into the dishwasher because they have this kind of one-shot, all-done mentality, right? They like to get to the end result in as less time as possible, right? So they like to take shortcuts to try and get them to where they want to go. They're kind of impatient in that manner. So like with the dishes example, right? Washing each individual dish by hand is very tedious, is very time consuming, and they probably don't have the patience for it, which is why to an ESFP, they would prefer to just throw into the dishwasher, let the dishwasher take care of it, so that they don't have to handle these like boring mundane tasks. Even if the dishwasher does not do a very good job, they will still prefer the dishwasher because to them they're just like, as long as I can eat off the plate and I don't like die, that's fine, right? As long as like, relatively clean, it's good enough with me. So they don't. So in this example, they kind of have like a poor attention to small details. They don't really have a high priority on. They don't really see how small, like insignificant details can affect the overall result. So they're kind of big picture oriented thinkers. Better example, yeah. So they're kind of like big picture thinkers. They don't really care about small details like, oh, there's like, a few specks of food stuck onto the plate, but whatever, right? It's not a big deal, right? Because and they like to take shortcuts to get them to where they want to go. The shortcuts may not necessarily be bad. It's just that they are prone to skipping over certain steps that may affect the end result as a result of their actions. So like another example, I guess, is if you wanted them to, hammer in some nails into a wall, they would find a way to do it so that they get it done in the least amount of time possible. However, the nails might be like, they might not be perfectly aligned. They might be like kind of bent at like certain angles, which can affect the structural integrity of the building, right? But to the ESFP, they're like, oh, I don't care about that, right? I just care about getting the job done, which is banging in the nails. I don't care like if the nails are straight or not. And so because of this, they kind of like gloss over small details, which they perceive to be small details. But if the nails aren't properly aligned in a building, the whole thing could collapse, which is a big deal. But to them, they don't see things that way. They just see it like, I have a task, I will get it done, I do not care about the outcome. So that's kind of like ESFP. The fourth way that you can spot ESFP is that they express themselves in an authentic manner, but in inappropriate situations. So for example, an ESFP is the kind of person to tell jokes at a graveyard to try and get people to laugh, right? So they're expressing themselves authentically, they're trying to lighten the mood. It's just that they're doing this in a situation that is inappropriate. Because at a graveyard, people, are mourning, they want to be serious about it. But to the ESFP, they're just like, oh, I want to lighten the mood, so I'm going to tell a joke. Even though other people may not necessarily see it that way. So they kind of have a difficulty seeing things from other people's perspectives. This can result in their actions often making others around them feel maybe awkward. So for example, something an ESFP might say or do would be like, it will be so funny if I just started moaning really loudly in a library, right? And then they will like proceed to do it. This can make people, like their friends, if they're in like a group of friends, they might feel like very awkward or like embarrassed or humiliated, where some people would feel that way. Others might find it absolutely hilarious, which is, these kind of people are the people that the ESFP would most likely have in their friendship circle, right? Because the ESFP likes to do things that are daring and bold and flamboyant. And so to them, it's just like lightening the mood and being like funny and hilarious. And so that's why they will tend to do things. They will tend to express themselves in an authentic manner, but in inappropriate situations. That's kind of what I mean, right? So the situation does not call for it. So for example, a library is a quiet place. A funeral is a quiet place. So then, like telling jokes or moaning really loudly is going to disrupt the environment. And so while it may be funny, at the same time, some people will find it disrespectful. But to the ESFP, they don't really care about how other people view their actions, and so they'll go ahead and do it. They can also be random and unpredictable because of this, but are often the life of the party because of such flamboyant behavior. So they're great at, like nightclubs or parties or like bars where this kind of behavior is acceptable. And that's why, they, most of the time, they're in the spotlight and they get all the attention. The fifth and last way that you can spot an ESFP is that they are very charming and charismatic, and they easily put others at ease in social situations. They have a high amount of emotional intelligence and ability to gauge what's happening in a certain group or like social dynamic. So for example, they can kind of tell like when someone is upset or when someone is offended or uncomfortable with something that was said, or maybe a certain perspective, belief, or opinion, right? So they're very able to gauge like what's happening in a social situation. They're able to gauge the overall like mood of room, and this makes them very good at interacting with others in social situations. I would also say that ESFPs tend to narrow interactions down to 3 categories, which is positive, neutral, and negative. So depending on what an interaction is, that will determine an ESFP's response. So for example, of a positive interaction, so let's say like they're talking to someone and the person says something, right? The ESFP will gauge this as either this is something positive, this is something neutral, or this is something negative. If the ESFP gauges the person's response as something positive, the ESFP in their mind will be like, this person is someone I could be friends with, I want to hang out with this person more. So, example of this is, again, moaning in the library, right? ESFP is like, it would be so funny if I started moaning in the library, right? They do it. If the friend starts laughing, they will be like, this is a positive response, so therefore this is someone I could be friends with. If the person is like, what the heck are you doing? Quiet down. They will perceive this more on the negative side, and it's like, wow, you are such a downer, like I don't want to hang out with you. So ESFPs narrow interactions in this way down to like positive, neutral, and negative, and that determines whether or not they want to hang out with you or like whether or not they like you. As a result of this, negative interactions are based on anything that would kind of like bring the mood down, bring the ESFP's mood down, right? So, for example, if they're speaking to someone, ESFP might perceive them to be, whiny, then the ESFP will not really want to be friends with them. They prefer positivity and lightheartedness, right? Basically, good vibes only. And anyone who kind of like rains on their parade, they don't really want to hang out with them, and they'll probably like, move on to someone else that does give them the kind of social support that they need. So yeah, that is 5 ways on how you can spot an ESFP. And one last bonus, I guess, to sum it all up. ESFP is the kind of person in a video game to basically kill you and then dance on your dead corpse whilst you watch. So ESFP in general behaves and communicates in a way to express the phrase, look how awesome I am and how not awesome you are. Don't you wish you were more like me? So if someone is interacting or communicating based on this kind of like spectrum, where it's like, I am awesome, you are not awesome, don't you wish you were more like me, very good chance this person is an ESFP.
What's up, Gordon? Looks like we got 2 beards in the room.
3 if you count your wife. Let's dive in.
Brian asks, Hugh, I heard that on X-Men Wolverine, you had specially designed lifts put in your shoes so you would appear taller than one of your co-stars. Is this true or just a silly fact?
It's true. I did.
Next question.
But it was a story.
Looks like I have to rescue you again, old man.
I knew you'd have a backup plan.
Good. We can't locate the tactical droid. He's staying out of sight.
Anakin, where are you?
I'm right here. What are you doing down there?
We are taking cover. Now get down!
You're not serious. There's only 1,000 droids down there, tops.
What are you up to? Where's Captain Rex?
We already finished our battle, so we decided to come help you with yours.
You're overdoing it. Again.
What was that? What? That noise? Didn't you hear it? It sounded sounded like a ship docking at one of the emergency airlocks. Your circuits are loose. No one's crazy enough to do that.
Anakin, you're crazy. Spinning is not flying.
But it's a good trek.
We do not want to be spotted.
Ah, I knew it! Them! Oh no.
Hey, you need some help unpacking?
Sure. Thanks. Could you scooch just a little bit more to the... Perfect. Wow, thanks! This is so pretty.
Not as pretty as you are.
That shell's not so great.
Ahem. Shade. Shade!
Circus freak.
Yes, I'm a circus freak. Go ahead and laugh all you want. You want to know why I joined the circus? Here we go. Do you have any idea what my home life was like? Growing up with 6 sisters who look exactly like me? It was like I didn't even have my own name. I joined the circus because I was scared of spending the rest of my life as part of a matched set. At least I'm different now. Circus freak is a compliment.
Guess that explains why you need 10 boyfriends, too.
I'm sorry, what?
Attention issues. You couldn't get enough attention when you were a kid, so you're trying to make up for it now.
Well, what's your excuse, May? You were an only child for 15 years, but even with all of that attention, your aura is this dingy, pasty, gray...
That's me.
Chuck!
Theorem. My name's Theorem.
Nice try, Chuck. What's all the hubbub?
Boss wants us to grab someone up.
Someone? Anyone? Who you grabbing?
Some girls. I mean, I'm not grabbing girls. Other than those ones, I guess.
Focus. Who are they? Why wasn't I invited to the party?
And I don't know. They got in a fight with 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝗶. They did a number on her.
Oh, really? Which number?
It's like a saying.
You're doing great, Chuck. Here, for your troubles.
So yeah, hope you found this video useful. See you in the next video, and as always, have a wonderful day. Peace out. Hey you guys, hope you enjoyed the video and you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested, I do offer one-on-one counseling sessions to help you understand more about your MBTI type, and we basically delve deeper into everything and anything that you want to know. More details on that, the link is in the description. Make sure to check that out if you're interested. Other than that, that's the end of this video. See you in the next one. Hope you have a wonderful day, and peace out.